My roommate Ainley sent me a red jade bracelet and asked me to drip blood on it every day so that her illness could be cured. I nourished the jade with my blood every day for a full 44 days. Finally, Ainley sent a recovery text as she wished. The next day, when I went to feed the chickens, I saw that the rooster, which had been lively just the day before, was now on the verge of death. Suddenly, it opened its mouth and emitted a gloomy voice. "You wretched woman, I will drag you down to hell." I lowered my head and met the gloomy gaze inside the rooster, blinking innocently. "You didn't specify whose blood." My roommate Ainley enshrined an evil spirit in our dorm, and someone in the same dorm reported it to the college. She kicked the door open and spoke aggressively. "Yunyang, was it you who told the advisor?" After quickly packing my belongings, I slung my bag over my shoulder and shot her a glare. "What kind of nonsense are you talking? Why would I report you?" She was at a loss for words. She would never admit to keeping a ghost servant, and if she responded, it would be like exposing herself. "Nothing, it's just that I went out at night without asking for leave." "Did you say something about it?" I didn't have time to entertain her probing. Keeping a ghost servant was nothing special, and hers wasn't even one of the powerful ones. Why bother getting myself involved in such a mess? "It's not me, move aside, I want to go home." "Are you going home this early?" Sue Jessen looked flustered as she stood up abruptly. After I left, only she and Ainley remained in the dorm. No wonder she was scared. "Oh right, and that little ghost too." I gave her a meaningful smile. "Jessen, summer vacation is here. It's better to go home early." Ainley suddenly appeared and intimately linked arms with Sue Jessen. "Don't go back so soon, that would be boring. Let's stay a few more days and go out to have fun, but my mom said she misses me a lot." Sue Jessen hesitated, trying to slide her hand down. Ainley was annoyed. "I already told you to stay, what's the rush to go back?" "Bitch." On the first day of moving into the dorm, she gave a heads up in advance, saying she likes to call others bitch, but there's no ill intent. If you get upset with her, she immediately shouts, "You're getting angry. How can you get angry over this?" Within a couple of days, rumors like, "You can't take a joke, you're easily triggered," and "You're hard to get along with," start spreading. Sue Jessen has a gentle personality and good upbringing, so she doesn't know how to fight back and just takes the bullying. "Alright, then I really have to go back the day after tomorrow." I shrugged. I had already warned them, but they didn't listen, waiting for someone else to be the savior. They'll just have to accept their bad luck. As I turned to close the dormitory door, I didn't miss Ainley's venomous glare, and she quickly lowered her head to hide it. The child doll on the bookshelf had red glowing eyes, exactly like hers. The little one follows the master, too. Going home for the summer vacation was to take over my mother's role in caring for my blind grandmother, so she could have time to go out and earn money. 3 hours by high-speed train, 2 hours by bus, 1 hour by motorcycle taxi, and finally crossing a small river by boat. Then climbing halfway up the mountain to see the wooden house on the hillside. Only then did it truly feel like coming home. Grandma is enjoying the cool breeze on the rocking chair at the door. I shouted excitedly, "Yunyang." Yunyang is not Grandma's name, it is her title, her identity. The Yun clan is the family in the village closest to the spirits and deities. Yunyang is the most spiritually gifted girl in the clan. The one chosen as Yunyang must abandon her own name and live under the name Yunyang. Grandma has sharp ears, and the cattail leaf fan in her hand flew over instantly. I caught it steadily. "I knew it was you, little one, back already, fan me." She ordered me to fan her to keep her cool. "Where's my mom?" I put down the cloth bag on my back, moved a small stool, and sat down beside her. Grandma shook her head. Heaven's secrets must not be revealed. I understood. They were discussing business and had to protect the client's privacy. Sure enough, half an hour later, a handsome guy walked out of the room. My eyes were fixed in a daze, and even after Grandma patted me a few times, I couldn't snap out of it. "Hey." It wasn't until my mom gave me a sharp knock on the head that I barely managed to come back to my senses. Grandma chimed in sarcastically from the side. "So focused, huh? I almost thought we'd need to set up an altar to call your spirit back." The handsome man was dressed in a white new Chinese-style outfit, with a warm smile. After hearing this, he only slightly lifted the corner of his mouth, revealing a deeply calculating nature. "You have a younger brother, right? I've seen him at school. Is his name?" I racked my brains but couldn't recall it for the moment. Su Qianni. The voice was pleasant too, with a warm, jade-like quality. I slapped my forehead. That's him, you should keep your distance from him. Grandma didn't react, but my mom tensed up instead. Is it serious? I shook my head. It's not serious, it's just hard to save. The day before going home, Su Qianni was still setting up a big candle formation downstairs in the dormitory to confess his love. Ainli came downstairs with great pride, and I leaned against the balcony railing to look down. Seizing the right moment, I poured down a basin of cold water. The scream reached the 5th floor, and Su Jiasin, who was also watching the commotion on the balcony, turned pale with fright. What are you doing, Yunyang? I glanced sideways at her, wondering in my heart how these people even got into university, with such strong wind. If I don't pour water, it'll be too late once it catches fire. She didn't take it seriously, convinced that I was just jealous. I couldn't be bothered to argue with her. Pitiful people inevitably have their hateful sides. No wonder they get bullied. A moment later, Ainli stormed upstairs. Are you crazy? Is it really necessary to be this jealous? I put away my notebook and climbed into bed, speaking in disbelief. Jealous of what? Jealous of your admirers who are all misguided in both looks and character. Su Qianni is notorious for being a playboy. There was even a female student who once accused him of rape, rather than envying such a pursuer. You might as well envy a dog for being able to eat feces. Upon hearing this, Ainli's face turned extremely unpleasant, but she did nothing and instead turned around, slipped under the bed curtain, and went to feed the little ghost. After listening to my advice, the handsome guy readily accepted it, saying, "Thank you for the reminder, master." I scratched my head shyly. Not really, just a master in training. My grandmother and mother looked up at the sky speechlessly. I could take care of my grandmother at home. While my mom packed her bags and went down the mountain with a handsome guy, saying she was going to check the feng shui. How much can we earn? I only cared about the money. She gestured with her hand. My goodness, there's so much, I exclaimed in amazement. 3. Not long after the two of them descended the mountain, they received a WeChat message from Su Jiasin. It's a video, and judging by the recording time, it should have been taken just now. A familiar arrangement of candles, with Su Qianni kneeling in the center, and Ainli looking at the diamond ring in his hand with a pleasantly surprised expression, as expected of a wealthy person, proposing with such a large diamond ring. What was originally a very heartwarming scene took a sudden turn just a few seconds later. A strong gust of wind blew, and the sparks eerily landed on everyone present, especially for Su Qianni. The sparks that flew onto him seemed to leap into a pot of oil, instantly covering his entire body. The only survivor present, Ainli, stood in place with a pale face, but upon closer inspection, one could see the excitement in her eyes. The video ended abruptly with Su Jiasin's scream. Following her was her tearful voice message. Help, Yunyang, why can't I put out this fire? I didn't hold back. Ghost fire, run back to the dorm right now and sit on my chair. 10 minutes later, she sent a follow-up message, her tone unable to conceal her shock. After you sit in your seat, the fire goes out. I suggest you go home as soon as possible. Don't say I didn't warn you. Su Jiasin was frightened by the ghost fire and quickly agreed. Okay, I'll leave today. The village turns off the lights early, so I went to bed before 9 o'clock. Early the next morning, Ainli's QQ avatar started blinking. We had a falling out in the second semester of our freshman year and deleted each other on WeChat. Since we hadn't added each other on QQ, she found a loophole to send messages. You bitch. You're the one who made Su Jiasin leave, aren't you, you bitch? Ignoring the string of insults, I calmly sent back a photo was sent over, clearly showing her chat history with Su Jiasin. At 6 in the morning, Su Jiasin had sent her a WeChat message. I'm heading home first. Yunyang asked me to go back early, saying the dorm feels a bit off. Well, betrayal and heartless are a perfect match made in heaven. I didn't reply to her again and casually deleted Su Jiasin's WeChat. I thought that would be the end of it, but 2 days later, the town suddenly reminded me to pick up a package, a red jade bracelet, radiating a murderous aura. Grandma was beside her. Why have you been raising these things lately? Touch them less. It shortens your lifespan. No, it's my roommate. She's quite wicked. Oh, she nodded to show she understood. At that moment, Ainli's call came through. Yunyang, Save me." She claimed she had suddenly been diagnosed with acute leukemia and sent several medical records, asking me to drip blood on the red jade bracelet every day to help cure her illness. Grandma, beside me, was laughing so hard she could barely stand, whispering quietly to me, "You're being taken for a fool." Sure, I agreed readily. Ainley hadn't expected things to progress so smoothly, and his tone rose with excitement. "Then I really appreciate it. I'll treat you to a meal when I get back." "How did you agree to her?" the old lady asked, puzzled. I waved my hand dismissively. "Oh, if I didn't agree, she'd bother me every day. How could I live like that? Besides, we're going to slaughter a chicken later anyway, so it works out perfectly," I said with a wink. After hearing my clever idea, Grandma looked at me with an expression that said, "That's my granddaughter, all right." From then on, I fed the jade with rooster blood every day, continuing for a full 44 days. Finally, Ainley sent a recovery text as she had wished. The next day, when I went to feed the chickens, I saw that the rooster, which had been lively and active just the day before, was now on the verge of death. Suddenly, it opened its mouth and spoke in Ainley's voice, "You bitch, I'm going to drag you to hell." I lowered my head and met the gaze of Ainley's consciousness inside the rooster, blinking innocently. "You didn't specify whose blood for." "The big rooster crows every day, and Grandma, with her sharp ears, grew tired of it, so she told me to kill it as soon as possible." The day before the holiday ended, Mother came home. Her face was deathly pale. I hurried over to support her and asked with concern, "Is it difficult to handle?" She shook her head and said, "You need to step in." Grandma's palm leaf fan stopped, and the clamorous wind in the mountains vanished. I casually pulled out the ghost behind my mother and said, "Sure, but I'm only free on weekends." My mother nodded wearily and handed me the jade ruy she was holding. "Someone will contact you when the time comes." "All right, today is the perfect day to kill a chicken and give you a good tonic." Roosters are considered highly yang in nature, making them a great supplement for those who communicate with spirits. To kill a chicken, you first drain its blood. The rooster kept letting out eerie, piercing cries, incessantly cursing and calling people vile names. The mother stormed out of the room angrily and, with one slash, severed the rooster's neck. "It's too noisy." My grandmother and I didn't dare to make a sound, afraid of angering her. When I returned to school, my mother saw me off down the mountain. "Take care on your journey. Try not to get into conflicts at school, but don't let yourself be bullied either." I've been hearing the same old story since I was a kid, so I just nodded perfunctorily. "Got it." Another familiar flick on the head followed. I responded with a cheeky grin, slung my cloth bag over my shoulder, and ran onto the boat. Only Ainley's little ghost was in the dorm, and there were occasional ghostly cries. "Help me," the voice of the female ghost. "You damned bitch," the voice of Ainley. The two voices tangled back and forth, so I put on my headphones and ignored them. Raising a ghost child requires acknowledgement of a master, and both parties must be compatible in some way. Now that I've saved this female ghost, not only will Ainley make a fuss, but if the ghost turns on me, the loss will outweigh the gain. On the last day of returning to school, Sue Jessen arrived late. Opening the door and seeing me, she was overjoyed. "Yunyang, you're back." I gave her a polite smile in return. She dawdled over to the side of my bed. "Yunyang, turn around." I looked at her pale face and bright red lips, my tone serious. "What have you done?" She took out a transparent jar to wipe her face, and the stench of death from the jar was overwhelming. "Last time I got burned by the candle, Ainley sent me this skincare product. Here, you should try it too." She pretended to be generous, but was actually ready to pull her hand back at any moment. In the past, whenever she shared things, I always refused whatever was offered. "All right, I'll give it a try." Sue Jessen didn't expect me to accept. Her expression turned much uglier, and her tone was full of reluctance. "Just a little bit." I dipped my index finger in a little and casually wiped it on the back of my hand. Everything that happened next scared her so much that she fell to the ground. The aloe vera gel-like substance, upon application, turned from transparent to gray-black, continuously bubbling, and a foul odor spread through the air. I shook my hand and wiped it clean. Grinding bones into powder to make skincare products may seem to improve the skin, but the inside quietly begins to rot. In ancient times, concubines vying for favor often used this method to beautify and nourish their appearance, but in the end, they all died with their bodies covered in festering sores. While they were talking, Ainley pushed the door open and entered. Carrying large and small shopping bags in her hands, mostly luxury items that ordinary people could hardly afford, she handed over 2 of the orange shopping bags. "This is an apology for Justin. Sorry about the candle incident last time." After saying that, she turned to me, "And this is for Yun Yang. Thanks to your help, otherwise I wouldn't have recovered so well." While Su Justin was looking at the gift, she leaned close to me and said, "I order you to accept it." I raised an eyebrow and did as she said. It seems she still thinks the blood that dripped onto the jade bracelet was mine. In her eyes, I'm nothing but a puppet obeying her commands now. Su Justin is quick to forget the slap once she gets the sweet date. With a bag worth over 10,000 in hand, she immediately casts aside the matter of the corpse powder skincare products. 5. Half a month after the start of the school term, Ainley's corpse powder cosmetics became a hit in the girls' dormitory. With everyone in the dorm placing orders, at 7 o'clock on a weekend morning, I pounded the bedboard a few times, unable to bear it any longer, and got up. "Can you have some manners? What are you making such a racket in someone else's dorm at 7 on a weekend?" A few girls exchanged glances and whispered among themselves, "Her temper is really awful." I laughed in anger, and at that moment, Ainley approached my bed and scolded me loudly. "We're all classmates. What are you being so fierce for? Shut up. Who's in the mood to play puppet games with you when they haven't slept well?" I sneered, looking down at everyone. "Putting a dead person's stuff on your face. Aren't you afraid your skin will rot?" Mentioning their beloved skincare products, they rose up in protest. "What nonsense are you talking? Ainley gave us the skincare products for free." "Yeah, you're just jealous. Don't be so sour, girl. Your sour expression is really ugly. Good advice falls on deaf ears for those doomed to die. We'll see in a week." Amid the clamor of everyone's curses, they overlooked Ainley's nervous sweat and Su Justin lying silently in bed without saying a word. "The college scholarship requires class evaluation and signatures," Su Justin reminded in a low voice as she got off the bed. Without turning my head, I said, "The review is in a week. If they can even show up, that alone would show their resilience." Sure enough, on the day of the evaluation, only a few people showed up wearing masks, barely meeting the minimum requirement for the number of participants. The male class monitor organized the voting on the stage. After several uneventful rounds, he took out my documents. "Next are the documents for classmate Yun Yang." As soon as the words were spoken, the people below rushed forward. "We don't agree with someone of such moral corruption receiving a scholarship." They all started talking at once, piecing together another version of me, morally corrupt, cursing classmates, petty, selfish, and dark. If you cover the name, I'd think you were cursing Ainley. I stood up with a cold expression. "Class monitor, I need materials for my scholarship application. They can't just make claims without evidence, right?" A girl raised her phone. "We have a recording. Can you have some manners? What are you doing coming to someone else's dorm at 7 a.m. on a weekend and making such a racket? Putting dead people's stuff on your face. Aren't you afraid your skin will rot?" "We'll see about that in a week. We'll see about that, Yun Yang." The girl waved her phone triumphantly. The class monitor's expression turned somewhat unpleasant. He had thought it would just be a formality, but he never expected things to escalate like this. I remained silent, listening to the distance of the recording and the occasional rustle of fabric, and I already had someone in mind. The class monitor wiped the cold sweat from his forehead. "So, does Yun Yang have anything to explain?" I spread my hands and said, "Since the evidence is solid, there's nothing else to do. Just don't come begging me to save your face when it gets ruined." They let out a contemptuous sneer. "Beg? You're dreaming." Striding out, I couldn't be bothered to argue with them any further. An unfamiliar call came through. "Miss Yun," a gentle, familiar voice. It was the new Chinese-style handsome guy. "Speak directly." He was taken aback. "Last time your mother came to check the feng shui of the old house, she said there were major issues and only you could solve them." "All right, pick me up on the weekend." Su Justin suddenly appeared. "Yun Yang, who are you talking to on the phone?" Rolled my eyes at her. "What's it to you?" She spoke with a pitiful tone. "I chased after you to comfort you because I was afraid you'd be upset." "Don't be sad. I'll go back tonight and talk to them. You'll definitely pass the second review next time." Hypocritical and pretentious. If it weren't for your recording, I wouldn't have to wait for the second trial, backstabber. Her face turned pale as she struggled to explain. No, how can you accuse me like that, she said, with large tears falling one after another. Before I could even react, the crowd from the meeting surged forward. Are you crazy, Yunyang? Jiaxing just pleaded for you a moment ago. This is like the dog that bit Lu Dongbin, showing ingratitude to someone who meant well. I've spoiled them. I pulled her mask off. Stop worrying about others and worry about your own survival first. She frantically tried to pull it back up, but it was already exposed. The class monitor reacted especially strongly. Ugh, that's so disgusting. Coincidentally, she had a crush on the class monitor and was so ashamed and angry that she was on the verge of tears. 6. On Friday. Since I had to work over the weekend, I simply took the day off to rest and recharge in the dorm, falling asleep to ghostly cries. A few voices appeared to disturb the peaceful dream. Do we really have to find her? She speaks so harshly, right? And do you think she would actually look into it? What else can we do? Even the hospital couldn't figure out the problem. A female voice choked with tears. Now all the boys in class are spreading rumors that I have an STD and my face is rotting. Woo-woo. A few people argued in hushed tones, finally making up their minds to turn around and meet my gaze. Is there something you need? I lay comfortably on the bed. Hu Ting, the girl whose mask I had pulled off that day, stepped forward and stuffed money onto my bed, judging by the thickness. It must have been nearly 10,000 yuan. Please save me, Yunyang. I'll do anything you ask. I slowly got out of bed. But what about my scholarship? I've been busy preparing for the second trial recently. Come on, the scholarship is only 5,000, but I'm offering 10,000 here. Hutting anxiously scratched her face, her fingernails filled with bits of rotting flesh. I shook my index finger and said, I only want what I deserve. You can take the money back. After hearing my words, she cried even harder. If you won't save me either, then what am I supposed to do? Shu, who said I wouldn't save you. I have 2 conditions for helping. First, I need to pass the scholarship's second review, and second, I paused for a moment, then spoke with resounding clarity, apologize. After they finished apologizing, one after another, I pulled 6 talisman papers from my backpack and a black pen from the desk. In a flash, I finished drawing, struck a match to light them, and tossed them one by one into a disposable plastic cup. Drink. They looked at each other, thinking it was medical skill, but it turned out to be witchcraft. Hu Ting took a deep breath, picked up the charm water, and drank it in one gulp. I packed my bag and headed out, reminding them, remember to lock the door when you leave. If you don't want to drink it, just pour it down the toilet. Before I even made it downstairs, I heard Hu Ting cheering excitedly in the dorm. It doesn't itch anymore, not at all. At the school gate, the new Chinese-style car door opened. Yunyang, Su Xinyu. Since bringing Su Qianyi back, the Su family has had no peace at home for nearly a year. I raised an eyebrow. This is your family matter. I can't interfere. Su Xinyu stroked the Bodhi bracelet on his wrist and explained unhurriedly. It's true unrest at home. Late at night, red liquid flows from the faucets, and the figures in the painting seem to come alive. I've consulted many people, but none could completely cure it. Ms. Yun stayed for over half a month in August, yet we still haven't found a solution. I took out the jade rui from my bosom. Why is it so frightening? He didn't expect me to be afraid, and a crack appeared in his perfect mask. Before getting out of the car, I reminded him with a smile, the Bodhi tree cannot suppress you. Blocking is not as good as diverting. The old house is a building from the last century, renovated several times, with a sense of age that hits you as you approach. Old Master Su loved his wife deeply. Since she passed away in the old house, he was unwilling to leave it no matter what. As the new head of the Su family, Su Xinyu had no choice but to travel around and take the lead in the exorcism efforts. As soon as I entered the old house, the sinister aura could no longer be contained, rushing out frantically as if the things inside were even more terrifying. Strangely enough, the ghosts would rather pass through my body than touch Su Xinyu. I lowered my head without a word, following closely behind Su Xinyu. Grandpa, why did you come downstairs? If I didn't come down, would that be acceptable? It's just a little prank, and it scared you all. the man had no choice but to step forward and support the elderly man, who was walking unsteadily down the stairs. Old Master Shuyong had been on the battlefield in his youth, now in his 80s. Aside from having difficulty walking, he was still spirited and energetic, not losing out to the younger generation. "Old man," I called out loudly, "this is no prank, it's evil spirits at work. Young lady, stop fooling around, whether it's foolish or not, we'll discuss it tonight." "Old man, by then, the truth will be clear." Su Xinyu's dark, raven-black eyes seemed to glance subtly in this direction. 7. As soon as midnight struck, the old house seemed to be shifted into another dimension. All was silent, with the occasional cawing of crows outside the window. Although the lights were on, they only illuminated a few steps ahead, with the end still shrouded in darkness. In the bathroom, the faucet turned on by itself, and a bright red liquid flowed down rapidly. Old Master Su disdainfully tapped his cane. "Isn't this just a prank? Have the housekeeper check it out." "A boring trick," Su Xinyu patiently explained. "It's been over half a month now. Whether we check during the day or late at night, the water has always been fine," the old man retorted. "Then take the faucet apart and have a look. This is blood. Can't you smell the overwhelming scent of blood in the air?" The jade Rui brushed past the faucet, and the smell of blood rushed straight into her nostrils. Old Master Su's face turned pale. Having fought in wars, he naturally knew whether this scent was real or not. He also understood clearly that this kind of smell couldn't be artificially replicated. I reached my hand under the faucet and pulled out a piece of meat. "Do you still think this is a prank?" The old man was dumbfounded, while Su Xinyu only slightly changed his expression, showing no other reaction. The piece of meat was casually tossed into the trash can. The old man stammered, "Leaving this here will scare the servants tomorrow." I picked up the jade Rui and was the first to step out of the bathroom. "It's fine, it'll disappear by tomorrow. This is something from another world." A cold wind blew through the corridor, and the old man coughed a few times from the chill. The famous paintings hanging on the wall shined brilliantly. As we passed by a painting of a banquet, the old man suddenly spoke. This painting is moving." "No." I shook my head and explained. "It's not moving, they are hunting. Once a passerby lets their guard down and stops to linger, they will drag the person into the painting and take their place." The old man was so frightened he could barely stand, and even the usually calm Su Xinyu adjusted his gaze. I stopped in front of the evening banquet painting, which depicted high-ranking ministers hosting a family feast, with dancers and other officials below. "How can you look?" Su Xinyu's words were cut short. The jade Rui pierced through the painting, aiming for the head of the powerful minister. While the protective glass shattered all over the floor, blood flowed ceaselessly down from the painting. After dealing with the troublesome matter, the old man also believed in the existence of evil spirits. I sat sprawled out on the sofa in Su Xinyu's room. The old man lay weakly on the bed, unable to regain his composure for a long time. "A good news and a bad news. Which one do you want to hear?" Being deliberately mystifying. Ever since I reminded him that blocking is worse than dredging, his attitude has worsened significantly. In other words, he's not even pretending anymore. The old man sat up from the bed, leaning halfway against the headboard. "Good news, then," I smiled and asked, "have you looked into the previous owner of the old house?" "It was the owner of a slaughterhouse, after he went bankrupt. The bank seized and auctioned it off." Su Xinyu replied with a cold expression. "That makes sense, his slaughterhouse wasn't ordinary. I suspect he wasn't slaughtering animals, but people." The two of them turned pale, and the old man spoke with a trembling voice, clearly unable to bear any more shocks. "Girl, isn't it good news? Wait for me to continue. The previous owner of the old house committed too many sins, and vengeful spirits and malevolent ghosts are entangled there. Which is why we had those incidents just now." I stopped their questions and said, "The good news is that the Su family is fortunate to have a powerful guardian spirit in the house, which is why you've been safe and sound for decades." The grandfather and grandson looked at each other and asked in unison. I pointed in the direction of Su Xinyu. He pointed at himself in confusion. I shook my head. "The one on your desk." The old man followed my gaze. "What's on the desk, there?" Clearly visible, was a photo of Su Xinyu and his grandmother Chen Pingshui, with a young Su Xinyu nestled in his grandmother's arms, full of dependence. "Old woman, is that you?" Old Master Su, tears streaming down his face, took out a pocket watch from his bosom and kept stroking it. Su Xinyu still retained a trace of rationality. What's the bad news? The bad news is that old Madame Su has been taken away. What's in the old house now is a real vengeful ghost. 8. The first rays of sunlight streamed into the old house, and the portraits in the bathroom and hallway returned to normal, with the broken ones restored to their original state. The old man sat upright in front of the study and opened the old photo album. This is my wife, Chen Pingshui. She passed away from liver cancer 20 years ago. The elderly woman in the photo was plump and gentle, with a faint smile, clearly a person blessed with good fortune, bringing prosperity to both people and the home. I took the photo, stood up, and went out. Su Xinyu lagged behind a step, lost in thought. I pointed to the car's tailgate. Before the tailgate had fully lowered, I flipped over and straddled him, grabbing his neck. Get out, he scolded in a low voice. Su Xinyu trembled and instinctively tightened his arms around my waist, watching the pure black mist retreat back into the old house. I patted his hand. Let go. The tips of his ears flushed red, and he cleared his throat a few times, no longer as composed as usual. I forgot to mention yesterday, the vengeful spirit in the old house came out from you, didn't it? Su Xinyu froze instantly, instinctively covering the Bodhi beads on his wrist. You saw through it. Through his words, I learned the story of what happened before old lady Su died. When Su Xinyu was born, his mother died during a difficult childbirth. His father resented him for it and abandoned him to be raised by his elderly grandparents in the old family home, never once checking in on him. When he was 5 years old, a Taoist priest suddenly appeared, pointed at him, and cursed him as a life-taking fierce ghost, saying he would bring death to those close to him. Somehow, these words reached his father, who grew even more indifferent toward him. Su Xinyu's grandparents didn't believe any of this, but unexpectedly, within half a year, his grandmother, who had always passed her annual health checkups, was diagnosed with late-stage liver cancer and passed away in less than 6 months. Seizing the opportunity, his father lashed out, calling him a jinx, and brought home Su Qianyi, who was said to have a birth chart that would bring prosperity to his father. It's my fault. Su Xinyu buried his head, lost in thought. I took out the jade rui and handed it to him. Take it. It wards off evil spirits. He took it in a daze, looking utterly confused. It's true that you have a fierce ghost attached to you, but to say you are the fierce ghost is nonsense. But it's true that I brought about my mother's death. I rolled my eyes helplessly. Everyone has their own fate. Do you even know what bringing about someone's death means? As far as I know, there are no traces of your mother's lingering spirit in the old house, which proves she reincarnated early on. When someone dies and reincarnates directly, it proves they had no regrets in this life or had already fulfilled their wishes. A mother's love is the strangest thing in the world. I collapsed onto the sofa and murmured quietly, I could never do it anyway. Su Xinyu's worldview was being refreshed, and I continued to pile on the pressure. Moreover, saying that you're a life-taker is absurd. Before old lady Su became the guardian ghost of the mansion, who do you think was suppressing the vengeful spirits in the Su residence? I tapped his chest. It was the evil spirits you locked away. Without you, the entire family would have died long ago. His eyes reddened, as he had been blaming himself for 20 years because of the false accusations made by the Taoist back then. Then who exactly took my grandmother away? Recalling the familiar scent in the old house, I said with confidence, I know them. Give me 3 days, and I guarantee I'll catch them. At the school gate, Su Xinyu tried to hold me back, grabbing my wrist. Want to grab a meal? His eyes sparkled like rippling water. I furrowed my brows. You don't need to seduce me. I'll do my best to complete the task, as long as the payment is sufficient. The light in his eyes dimmed, making anyone who saw it feel heartbroken. All right. Your brother's birthday is in a few days, right? Treat me to that. Su Xinyu stood frozen in place, and after a long while, he spoke with difficulty. All right. I couldn't be bothered to guess what he was thinking, so I took back the jade rui and entered the school. Out of the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a familiar figure darting past. 9. The dormitory was empty, and Ainley had posted her location on social media, the most upscale mall in the city center. Choosing a birthday gift for my dear boyfriend, I stared blankly at the jumble of miscellaneous items on my seat. I simply swept them aside. set down my backpack. While the ghostly wails in the dorm continued unabated, I took down the doll enshrined by Ainley and used the jade rui to remove the old lady Sue from it. "Thank you, child," a kind voice. "It's nothing." After putting away the rui, I casually grabbed a lingering soul from the Sue residence that had attached itself to me and stuffed it back in. The restless doll returned to normal, still emitting two ghostly cries. Inside Ainley's doll, not only was it enshrined, but also a fragment of her own lingering soul, along with the one from the rooster. She now has only a thread of it left. Continuing to be greedy will only lead her to an irreparable situation. The dormitory door opened, and Sue Justin saw me holding Ainley's doll, a glint of sharpness flashing in her eyes. I saw everything. What? I had no awareness of being caught and placed the doll back on the bookshelf. She gripped my arm tightly, her nails digging into my flesh. "Give me the medicine for my face, and I won't tell anyone." Sue Justin looked frantic, but the wounds on her face weren't too ghastly. I had stopped her in time, so her face could heal on its own without needing any talismans. "The talisman paper is harmful to your body. Your face isn't that serious. There's no need." Before I could finish, she anxiously interrupted. "Stop with the useless talk. Give it to me." Her paranoid gaze didn't resemble that of a normal person, but rather a demon from hell, while the jade rui in my pocket kept making faint sounds. "It's hopeless. The last trace of Ainley's soul is with her. The current Ainley is merely an empty shell controlled by malevolent thoughts. Once the evil spirit retaliates or the doll is destroyed, death is certain. I don't have any talismans. If you want to file a complaint, go ahead." Sue Justin was about to lose her temper when the phone rang. Ainley's voice came through, inviting her to go shopping together, probably afraid that I would fight him to the death. Sue Justin returned to normal, picked up her bag, and headed out, saying, "Yunyang, I'm leaving." The eerie voice sent shivers down my spine. Was there anything that old lady Sue always kept with her? Su Xinyu replied instantly, "My Bodhi bracelet and a red jade bracelet are with Su Qianyi." Image. This one. Su Xinyu fell silent for 2 seconds. "How could it be with you? Your cheap brother's girlfriend gave it to me to frame me." After explaining in one sentence, I started preparing for Su Qianyi's birthday party 3 days later. Hu Ting's badly damaged face had greatly improved, and she occasionally came to the dormitory to bring food. "Today is taro cake. What is this bright red stuff? It smells really fishy," she said, pointing at the large bowl on the table. My hands didn't stop. I wrote dozens of talismans in a single breath: rooster blood and black dog blood. Hu Ting fell silent. She didn't understand, but she tried to respect it. I turned to her and said seriously, "Hu Ting, I need to ask you for a favor." "No, no, no." She waved her hands frantically. "You helped treat my face and cleared up the rumors for me. Whatever you need, just tell me. Consider it done." Hearing her say it so earnestly, I actually felt a little embarrassed. Last time wasn't about clearing her name either. During the scholarship's second review, the class monitor and a few guys deliberately avoided Hu Ting and moved to the back seats. The teachers saw them and told them to move forward. They pushed each other back and forth, mumbling that she had a sexually transmitted disease, saying it had even rotted to her face. Hu Ting trembled with anger, being prone to tearfulness. She couldn't explain 2 sentences before breaking down in sobs. Several other girls with skin issues nearby remained silent, afraid of getting involved. I urgently needed to collect black dog blood, so I grabbed Hu Ting with one hand and the source of the rumor with the other, pulling them onto the stage. "Teacher, please take a look. Is this a sexually transmitted disease causing facial sores?" The teacher examined it carefully and announced loudly to the audience, "This isn't a sexually transmitted disease at all. It's clearly skin damage from using poor-quality skincare products." With this opening, the crowd below began to respond in agreement, and several people removed their masks to help explain. In the end, the matter concluded with the class monitor apologizing, and Hu Ting was so grateful she didn't know what to say. Offering daily tributes, I handed her the syringe. "I'll give you the dormitory key. If I haven't sent you a message by 10 p.m., come to our dorm. Inject the remaining black dog blood into Ainley's doll." Hu Ting took the items in confusion. "A cotton doll won't be able to hold this large half bowl, will it?" "Don't worry, just do as I say." 10. In order to introduce Su Qianyi to the circle, Mr. Su threw a grand birthday banquet. even managing to invite Grandpa Su to attend. Su Xinyu supported Grandpa Su, his gaze lowered, exuding an ethereal sense of divinity. I muttered quietly to myself, pretending to be a man. He had sharp ears and looked up with a light smile. "You flatter me." The banquet began, with Mr. Su leading Su Qianni, followed by Yin Li, as the three of them mingled among the various dignitaries. Finally, they approached with their wine glasses. Yin Li, seeing me appear, looked serious for a moment before quickly regaining his smile. "I've heard about the old house, Dad. Haven't Mom's affairs taught you a lesson yet? You should change the will as soon as possible." Su Qianni pretended to toast Grandpa Su with an expression of obedience I had never seen before. "It seems the power in the Su family still depends on Grandpa Su." I remained silent, only raising my hand to stop the wine glass. Under the puzzled gazes of everyone and Yin Li's nervous expression, I casually took the wine glass. Just what I needed. I was thirsty. "Thanks. Whose family are you from?" Su Qianni tried to recall the guest list. "Yunyang is my guest, so don't worry about it." Grandpa Su explained before I could. As the wine went down, it felt as if all my internal organs were starting to burn, a fire that left me restless and uneasy. I crashed to the ground with a thud, yet the surrounding guests were not startled in the slightest. Instead, they continued toasting and drinking as if they hadn't seen a thing. Yin Li helped me up and whispered in my ear, "Did you really think I didn't know you were coming? This glass of wine was prepared just for you." A figure flashed by the school gate, and I was right. She smiled gently. "I'll help her to rest for a while. The alcohol might be kicking in." No one objected, not even Grandpa Su and Su Xinyu, as they all played their parts in this grand performance. The four of them appeared like a harmonious family, smiling with their mouths opening and closing, yet not a single sound was made. I was extremely weak. "Yin Li, stop it. Controlling so many puppets will backfire on you, huh? You should worry about yourself first. When the sun rises, I will be the one in charge of the Su family. I'll find you a nice burial spot then, so your trip here won't have been in vain." She pressed me down onto the chair in the lounge and pulled out a cotton doll identical to the one in the dormitory. The Yin family's puppet technique is considered a secret art. She uses it freely and skillfully. Truly talented. It's a shame she didn't use it for the right path. What a pity, I sighed. Yin Li leaned closer to me. "What did you say?" I said. I was no longer as weak as before. Instantly restraining her, I threw out a talisman, and the doll was instantly burned to ashes. The eerie stench of a corpse spread through the lounge. "You used human skin to make a doll." Yin Li smiled eerily. "As expected of the Yun clan, you see it clearly, but it's too late." Her eyes sharpened, and her hand clenched abruptly. "Nothing happened. How could this be?" she exclaimed in shock. "You touched my doll." I took a step back and released Chen Pingshui from the jade rui. Forcibly taking someone away comes with a price. Chen Pingshui vanished in an instant. Yin Li was stunned for a moment, then broke into a smile. A woman's compassion. I knew she couldn't bring herself to do it. I shook my head with a bitter smile. "Yin Li, your biggest problem is that you rely on your talent and treat others like fools. Humans and ghosts are different paths. She could easily kill you, but it would also come at a great cost." However, I paused. The Yin Li in the Su family's old residence wasn't so fortunate. When it comes to a battle between ghosts, no one can say anything. Yin Li was afraid. She never expected that I would know the most secret technique of the Yin family. Soul separation. The highest level of soul separation isn't about using residual souls to control others, but transforming oneself into a ghost. As long as the ghostly form still has a breath of life, it can always make a comeback. 11. She knelt on the ground, tears and mucus streaming down her face. I really didn't mean to harm her. I just wanted her to help me with something. Even a ghost wouldn't believe that. It's true she didn't kill Chen Pingshui, but hurting her family was a fact. For years, Chen Pingshui had protected the old residence precisely to guard her family. What Yin Li did was even more unforgivable than a capital crime. Perhaps the 2 bowls of blood injected into the cotton doll took effect, as Chen Pingshui quickly dealt with the malevolent spirits in the old mansion. Yin Li was also extremely weak. She collapsed to the ground, rapidly turning into pus and blood, with bubbles churning until everything soon returned to calm. When they walked out of the lounge, everyone looked as usual, without any sign of abnormality. Su Qianyi also did not notice the disappearance of the person beside him. Yin Li's soul scattered and vanished. Not even a trace of remnant spirit remained. Su Xinyu approached. "Where's the one who helped you just now? You're quite well behaved. Pretending to be harmonious brothers really looks convincing." I didn't answer him directly. "The matter is resolved. Transfer the money as soon as possible." I left without looking back. And Su Xinyu wanted to chase after me. A sharp glare was thrown his way, and he stopped. "We are not on the same path. Just looking at the face is enough. Getting too close is not good for either of us." The dormitory returned to calm. Hu Ting stood there dazedly holding the syringe, her face full of confusion. I casually brushed them off and sent them back to their own dorm. The spot where the doll had been placed was now empty, with only a few specks of dust scattering in the wind. Su Jessen walked in and muttered, "Hey, didn't this person drop out? Why haven't they come to pack their things yet?"